What's up, guys? It's Mr. Brian Humphrey here with the Middleman CEO. This guy right here has amazing business courses, leadership courses, has went from being homeless to having a very successful moving business, moving from Louisiana to Texas, and a father of 4 kids, right? A married man, a man who is in shape, a man who likes to always smile, make sure his hairline is on point. This guy is going to sell you anything and everything that'll make your life better immediately. We have here the Middleman CEO. So the first question I want to ask, who is the Middleman CEO?
Oh, okay, gotcha, man. Look, I appreciate all the kind words, and and again, I appreciate you having me here. And so this is, I'm kind of nervous, man. I don't really get to do interviews. Most of my stuff's done online, so I hope I'm able to do okay. And so my story is a pretty simple story. I was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I grew up in poverty. Poverty was passed down to me. So I inherited poverty, which is never good, but I didn't have a choice. And, beginning in my senior year of high school, found myself homeless. And it's a crazy story, but it's true. I actually came home and my mom ran away. And when I say that, people make me say it again, but it's worth saying twice. When I came home from school, my mom had run away. So my mom packed up, left me and my 3 other brothers. We were left at home. We had no food, no money, no anything. And I guess she decided it was a better idea, better for her to just go her own way, and kind of left us in a bad position. Shortly after that, we lost a house because we didn't know how to take care of a house. And, we had no food, we really had no clothes, we had no money. We probably stayed in the house for a couple of months before they evicted us. I was in high school when I saw my first eviction notice on a door that says you have five, East Baton Rouge Parish, you have 5 days to vacate the property.
Wow.
And for us, we didn't know anything about that. We didn't, understand what that meant. We didn't understand anything about, how to take care of ourselves, how to live. And so a couple of my brothers kind of went off and started doing some illegal stuff. They ended up in jail. And so I ended up living with some friends. So throughout my senior year of high school, I probably stayed with a minimum of 3 different families. And I didn't have anything. And so I lived with those families, and they helped me out tremendously, man. And that was my first taste of homelessness. Fast forward a few years later, and just a few years, before where I am today, I was homeless again in Louisiana. That was probably the 3rd time, and I decided, this is not something I want to do. I have kids. I've got to do better in this life. And so what I did is I, ended up helping people move furniture and stuff like that. And then, all of a sudden I started making money, and then I was able to get myself, a little crappy apartment, but it got me off the streets. And moved, got married, got a family, thankfully, moved here to Dallas, and then decided I don't want to do moving anymore. And so what can I do? And then, a customer reached out to me one day, was like, hey, you need to get some help moving. I was like, I don't do it. And, that's how I kind of got into doing what I do today. But my background is not a pretty one. There were more downs than ups. And so it's certainly not something I ever want to experience again. And I hope that the things that I teach and share online can prevent others from kind of going through the same thing.
Wow, man. And you said that you were homeless multiple times.
Yes.
Back and forth.
Yeah.
Not to hold your story back.
Yeah.
Can we specifically talk about how was it when you were homeless?
It was pretty hard, very stressful. I was borderline depressed. Keep in mind I had no money, no job, no income. And, because my family was in a tough position, there was really nobody to get help from. And so what I would do is I started, because when you're out there, you start adjusting. I always say, like, human beings were really good at adjusting. So even if it's something you're not comfortable with, if you spend time in the thing, it's only a matter of time before you learn. Like if I drop you off in the desert, you're like, what am I supposed to do? But if I come back in 90 days, you're thriving in the desert, right? You're like, hey, let me show you where the water is. You know what I'm saying? And so that was kind of my experience. I adjusted to being homeless. I ended up being out there about 3 months. The first month I was living in my truck. Well, actually, first 2 months I was living in my truck. I had everything packed in the truck, and I was so good at it that when I see vehicles now with clothing and whatever packed in, I know instantly that person's homeless. Instantly, I can see it, and and some of the viewers know exactly what I'm talking about. And then all of a sudden, I started finding vacant apartments, started sleeping in those. I started finding, public restrooms. So I would lock it from the inside, parks and stuff like that. And that's how I live. So it was very stressful, very depressing. It's not something I ever want to experience again. I hope nobody ever gets the opportunity to experience that. So I don't take it lightly. That's why I do not talk about being poor. Those words don't come out of my mouth. I've lived that. It ain't fun. You can have all of it. And I don't talk about being poor. I don't talk about poverty. And I don't talk about financial curses for families. So I kind of stay away from that. Yeah.
How did you go from, now you mentioned little things earlier about the story and your business, but how did you specifically go from struggle to success?
Well, a big part of it was the mindset. Whenever I was out there, I was heavily relying on a paycheck and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden when that was gone, I was in a lot of trouble. And that's why I speak against that. I just hammer that point that, it can't just be that way. And so for me, the struggle was something that inspired me to go further. And so whenever I started the business in 2020, that's initially when I got started on the Middleman Business. I went from 0 to 77,000 that year. I always say it's not $1 million. It's probably not going to make you jump up and hit the ceiling. But for me, it was a big deal because you're talking to a guy who was just, a little while before that homeless.
Wow.
You're talking to a guy that grew up in poverty. You're talking to a guy who had never worked a job that paid him that amount of money. And I was able to do this from the house.
Wow.
And so I knew that I probably had something that could be successful if I was willing to put a little work in and be a little bit patient. And so 2020, 77 grand. This year on pace to do over 300.
Wow.
Again, not $1 million, but it did change my life.
Sure.
And so I'm always telling people, you don't always need $1 million. I know it's popular online.
Right.
But that's not necessary. You can be that sure.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with it. But that shouldn't be the goal. The goal should be to create some type of cash flow without a job so you can live and enjoy life.
Very true.
Freedom's the goal. So
I totally agree.
Yeah,
I totally
absolutely.
agree, man.
Freedom's the goal.
So you went from 0 to 77,000 in 2020.
Yes.
And then you're on pace to making over $300,000 this
Correct.
year. Maybe even more, I believe.
Hopefully more, but still not bad.
Not at all. And what exactly is the Middleman Business?
The Middleman Business is, well, let me ask you this. Have you heard, I'm sure you have you heard of a company called Uber?
Yes.
AIRBNB?
Yes.
Fiverr?
Yes.
Google?
Yes.
All right, so these, in my mind, these are all middleman companies. These are companies that don't actually do the work. They simply match you with someone who does the work. So in Uber's case, Uber doesn't actually, company reps don't actually drive you around. These are not Uber employees. They're just contractors.
Independent contractors.
Correct.
Wow.
And so they're just contractors who go out, pick you up, Uber introduces you, and get paid to do it. Same thing with Airbnb. They don't own your homes. They just simply match you with someone who wants to rent it. And so I was like, all right, this is kind of the same. I'm matching people with moving services. And, fast forward, now I do the same with cleaning services also. So I have 2 industries I work in, the cleaning business. So I have a cleaning service in Jacksonville, Florida. I don't live there. And I don't do any cleaning. And listen, Brian, I don't want to do any cleaning. I don't even know how. My wife fusses at me now because I can't even clean the kitchen properly, right? So I don't want to do any cleaning, and I certainly don't want to do any moving. And so what I found out is there's companies out there that are willing to do the work, just like drivers are willing to drive you around. And I said, well, let me find customers and then introduce the customer to the business, let them do the work. And so essentially the middleman business model is simply a model where I teach you how to book customers using your phone. That's the beauty of it.
Wow.
You can do all this through your phone. We're on the phones all the time, Brian. Why not make money?
Why not make money?
Right? Think about it. How often are you on your phone each day?
All
the time.
All the time, every
right?
hour, yes.
And so why not learn to make money? We have these phones that are worth $1,500,
right,
which is absurd,
right,
but we don't even know how to make $3 a day just to pay the bill.
Wow.
And so, you will book customers. Customers will reach out to you. I teach you how to get customers to contact you. Then I teach you how to take a deposit over the phone. They're going to literally pay you money over the phone, right? When you go or you book things, or you normally have to pay a deposit, right? Well, that goes into somebody's pockets.
Correct.
If you order a t-shirt or something today, they're going to ask you for a deposit.
Very true.
Right? And so we take deposits up front anywhere from $100 to $250 per customer. To me, that's a lot of money for a 5-minute phone call or text message, right? And so the customers are going to pay you the deposit, and then you're going to take the customer's information. You're not going to do the work. I'm not in Florida. I can't do the work. So I'm simply going to connect the customer to the ISP, the independent service professional in Florida, who's going to go out and do the work.
Wow.
Right? And so I get paid to do it. And that's the beauty of it for me, is that I don't have to leave the house. I don't have to give up my day. I don't have to sell my time for money.
Right,
I want to enjoy life. I don't want to miss my kids growing up. I don't want to cancel soccer practice. I don't want to be that guy. There are doctors that make $300,000, $400,000 a year, but they don't control their lives. They're not free. They can be out at a ball game with their kids coming up to bat, get a text, and we need you at the hospital. They don't have a choice.
And to piggyback off that, two things I want to say.
Yeah.
I just started making 6 figures, maybe a year or so ago, and I see people have these job titles and stuff, and they're working these 40, 50-hour work weeks, but their time is controlled. They can't reschedule a time. They can't reschedule time working, and I realized that it's so powerful to be able to be on your own time, on your own terms. Man. So I really appreciate you even talking about that, because people think, oh yeah, I have this title, I'm a supervisor, I'm doing this, but I may work a little more hours. But I can stretch that in 7 days.
Correct.
You only can work 8 to 5 Monday through
That's
Friday,
it.
or 8 to 5
That's
Tuesday
it.
through Saturday.
So imagine what life would be like. That's why I always tell people, imagine what life would look like if you could make the same salary that you go to work for and work 2,500 hours a year, and drop that all the way down to 1 hour a week. Because the way I teach you is, as soon as your business grows and you start to learn the business, then I'm going to teach you how to hire your first VA, virtual assistant, like I have. And now that you have a virtual assistant, they're going to run the business for you. So you were the person who was contacting customers, getting it booked, and dispatching. Well, now you're going to pass that work to them, and they're going to run the business for you. So instead of working an hour or two each day, now all you do is meet with your VA. You set a day, you have an hour meeting, 1 per week, you discuss the business, you're done. So it's hands off.
You talk about independent contractors, like Uber, DoorDash, Instacart, and then you talk about other businesses that do the same thing. And even when I speak, I do the NECs, which is a non-employment contract.
Okay.
And so for anybody, I'm gonna give people a little advice on your interview. Even anybody who has a DoorDash shopper account, those accounts, you can put that account under your business and get paid all that money back. You don't have to pay taxes.
Wow. Yeah.
So you're actually getting money back, not losing money.
Okay. Yeah, that's great to know.
But you mentioned about people not understanding how really money works, and how to grow their money. Why are most people broke?
That's a good question, man. And I don't want to be complex with my answer. I just want to make it like really simple. And this is from my perspective, from my like from my viewpoint, and it probably won't match up with everyone else's, because
right.
honestly, that question gets me in a lot of trouble, because I know I'm probably going to be doing a lot more interviews going forward as the Middleman course starts to explode, and we start to build a community, a nation of we're going to call it the Middleman Nation. So as we start to grow, I'm going to be doing, and I know this question is going to get me in a lot of trouble, but I know how to answer it, and I'm not afraid of the pushback. So in my mind, what keeps most people broke, because I always say there's a 90%, there's a 10%, right? And the 90% is where most people are, and most people are in financial bondage. And the 10% of those that say, wait a minute, time out, we don't want to play on that side, we want to do something different and change our lives. You're 10%, I'm 10%. It's not how much money's in the bank, it's how much knowledge and information is in the mindset.
Correct.
Because people don't understand when they see rich people, they're like, well, how did they got it this way? No. They got it this way. They had to think differently in order to get those results.
True.
So if you don't change the way you think, there's nothing I can say to you to make you successful, because your mindset is going to win. It's going to override whatever I say. It's going to override whatever I say. So if I come and say, hey, you can't have this and not have that, then your mindset's going to say, yeah, but the value's not in that. The value's in this, right?
Right.
And so, but in my opinion, to answer your question, I think most people are broke because of three things primarily that I talk about a lot. And again, this gets me in trouble, but I'm sticking to it, and it is what it is.
Go for it.
Number one, I believe that most people are broke because they have one source of income, which is their paycheck from a job. There's nothing wrong with having a job or the paycheck. That's a good thing. The problem is when it's the only thing. It's the only thing bringing money to your door, bringing money to your family. Think of how risky that is, Brian, to where, if your paycheck's your only source of income, and it takes care of your entire family, your house, your car, where your kids go to school, the things you buy them, Christmas, and all of a sudden, that paycheck gets pulled. Now what do?
It's so crazy you say that, because by being in 2024, there are so many ways to generate income. Right? Even if you don't want to start your own business, there's side hustles you can do for 20 hours.
Correct.
Deliveries, you can drive people around, you can deliver groceries, you can deliver medication.
There's always something.
You can work as a bodyguard at a club.
Yeah,
be a
I don't recommend that.
Right, but if you're in shape, if you're in
Yeah.
shape and you're in shape and you're fit, you can work on Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, 5 hours a night, making $30 an hour. That's
there are things you can do.
That's $300. That's $450 a week extra that you made.
Yeah.
You do 450 times 4. That's $1,800.
Yeah.
Extra a
Could
month.
make a
$2,000 a month.
Yeah.
That's $25,000 a
give you
year
some
that you
free
made
money.
extra.
Yeah.
That's an investment on a house.
Yeah.
That you can
That's
flip.
investment.
You see what I'm saying?
Well, because you said that, you're not gonna like what I say next.
I'm already knowing. I'm already knowing. So I'm saying, right? I know a part of your story more than the viewers know, but what is the next two things where most people are broke?
All right, so paychecks number one, because paychecks is your primary source of income, so I'm not against it. In fact, whenever people start middleman classes or start the course and then they go out and start the business, my big thing is don't quit your job. Let's grow your business and then we'll replace your job, but don't just quit your job. I know there's a lot of fluff on the internet. I'm not that guy. I'm not going to sell you dreams. I feel like I have integrity. I got a family. I wouldn't want to be misled, and I'm not going to mislead anybody else. But two of the other things that I believe keep people broke, other than having a paycheck as your only source of income. Again, nothing wrong with it, but you need to find another way to make money.
That's an obvious one.
Yeah.
Give me the messy two.
Yeah, the messy two. All right, so the messy two is going to be, and we just hinted on it, buying a house with a paycheck.
Wow.
I believe that, and I learned this from experience, buying a house with a paycheck is one of the hardest things to overcome, because the reason being is because the paycheck is not only your primary source of income, it's the income that you're going to have to use to pay a mortgage for 30 years.
A big liability, what you're saying.
It's a liability,
Wow.
correct.
Wow.
And so now you're living in a liability, call it an asset. It's the bank's asset, your liability, because it makes the bank money and it takes your money. And so now the worst part, and that's not even the worst part. The worst part isn't that it's inflated and it's overpriced. The worst part isn't that the house is a liability and it keeps taking money out of your pocket. No, the worst part is that your paycheck is responsible for covering the payments.
Liability.
Correct. So which means that if anything, I need you to understand this, if anything happens to your paycheck, you run the risk of losing your home.
Wow.
So that's why I'm like, hey, look, don't buy houses. Establish cash flow from an asset first. Then let the asset buy the house.
Wow.
So if you can learn to let the asset buy the liability, it'll change your life. So whether house, car, vacation, it doesn't matter. My question to you is, other than your paycheck, how are you going to pay for it? And if you can answer that with, hey, I own a laundromat. Hey, I got a rental house. Or hey, I have a middleman business. That's going to pay for your house. Okay, now go and get your house. Because I'm not against owning homes. I'm just against owning homes with paychecks.
So you've hit on 2 points and about you letting your assets, your business flow, cash flow, pay for your mortgage, your house, and then getting hustles that you are contracting for.
Correct.
The company doesn't own you, you're contracting.
Correct.
So one of the things that I'm seeing you hit on a lot is about people becoming business owners, either contractors or putting people in position to make money for them and the company that they own.
Yeah.
And so do you believe everybody's cut out? And before we go to the point 3, do you believe everybody cut out to be a business owner or to be a hustler or entrepreneur?
That's a good question. I believe that those who believe that they can be business owners can be business owners. I believe that we're all born with certain tools and equipment in this life. I don't have a desire to be in the NBA. I don't have the equipment to be in the NBA. So I don't really have the desire. But I have the desire to start a business. I have the desire to be financially free. And I feel like people that have that desire to be financially free, because there are many people who are like, hey, I just want enough to get by. And then life gives you just enough to get by. And so I don't say stuff like that, right? So my big thing is, like if you have any desire in you to do it, then it has to be in you the potential to be able to do it or the ability to do it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair for you to have a desire to do something that you're not capable of doing.
Right.
That would just create a miserable life. So I don't believe we're put on this earth to desire things we don't have the equipment to do. So I don't desire to be LeBron James. I'm never going to be 6'9", 240 pounds. It's not me. So I don't even have that desire, right? But I do have desire to create financial freedom for my family by building a business, right? So I can do that, right? And so the last thing that gets me in trouble too, and I've talked about this with other people, ad nauseum, but the last thing that gets me in trouble is I believe that people focus on having savings accounts. And I believe it disrupts their financial freedom. And the reason, and I know you're going to get pushback, I'm going to get pushback, so I'm here to defend myself. And the reason I believe it is because a couple of reasons. Number one, we don't want to manifest rainy days and emergencies into our lives. Reason being is because life is unpredictable as it is. Trust me, it's got some emergencies and rainy days already lined up for you. And there's nothing we can do about it. So we're not going to stress about that. We're not going to stress about anything. Correct. That's just life. So I'm not going to manifest those things by calling this account an emergency or savings account. The reason I'm not is because I understand that in order for that account to be successful, it needs to have either an emergency or a rainy day. And so I call my account an opportunity account.
Wow. I heard that guy say opportunity account. That's very unique. Very
because I'm looking for opportunity. I'm not looking for rainy days and emergencies. And I always say, look, think about this. When was the last time you had a $10,000 emergency? A $5,000 emergency? It just doesn't happen. And even if you do have an emergency, there are other ways you can fund it. You can borrow money from your uncle. You can get an extra job. You can swipe your credit card and pay as you go. There are plenty of ways you can fund emergencies. You don't have to sit on cash.
That's very true.
The government is printing money by the trillions, killing your money. In fact, the banks are taking your money, making money. I always say it this way: the banks tell you to save money, and the banks don't even save money.
And you know what, Sean? To piggyback on what you're saying, there's so many. Even people say you have $100 emergency, $200 emergency, there's Dave, there's these little apps, Earnin, Dave, and just other financial apps where you can borrow, $200 and you pay it back your next payment.
Yeah.
And then you can take it out again right after and borrow it again.
Yeah.
There's so many ways to build
There's
credit.
ways you can fund it.
And it's so, I'm not saying you shouldn't have anything in your savings or anything in your opportunity account.
Yeah.
But I think
it shouldn't be your focus.
It should not be your focus.
No.
So
if you got a few dollars, Brian,
yeah.
then like somebody commented on one of my videos, they were like, "Hey, you're wrong about savings. I have $100,000 in a savings account." And I was like, "What is that doing for you?"
Nothing.
And I even asked somebody I was having a conversation with, and I was like, "Hey, for instance, if you had a bunch of money, what does it do for you?" And he's like, "Nothing."
Get property.
Exactly.
Make
So why not use the money to create? Because everybody's going to be like, "Well, what if you have an emergency?" That's fine. Number one,
$1,000 emergency.
Come on, dude. Number one, there are other ways to fund it.
Yeah.
Number two, the bank's using that money to get rich while you're poor, right?
Interest.
Because it's mindset.
It's a lot of interest.
Right. And they pay you zero interest. And number three, sure, there could be an emergency, but what if you were using the money while you still had a job and you didn't have the emergency, using the money to build a business or a side business and let that thing grow? And so by the time you have an emergency, my business is making money.
Your business will pay for it.
What are we talking about, right?
That's a good point. A lot of people, and I think it's so important, before the next question, it's so important for people to understand to have some type of business. Even if you create a hair washing business, if you do tea cakes, if you can find a business you can make between $1,500 and $2,500, even if you're doing Uber, Instacart, ship, some type of thing on the side that you can put your business name under. You can create $2,500 a month. Emergency should not be a problem. Most emergencies are not going to cost more than $2,500 a month. And I used to drive a foreign BMW. I know what I'm talking about. So I totally agree with what you're saying. Of course, it's going to be pushback, but that's only because people do not understand.
Well, they're programmed.
Correct.
They're programmed by their parents and their grandparents, the school system, and the bankers.
Correct.
Right. And so there's nothing wrong with that, because I'll say this. When our parents and grandparents and the school teachers and whatnot were saving money in the bank, it was actually a good idea because the banks did pay interest. So it was a benefit to you to leave your money in the bank. Now they pay no interest, so it does not benefit you at all. So if you want to put a little money in the bank just to add a little extra cash, fine. But don't focus every dollar. There are people out there working extra jobs, extra hours to fund the bank.
Wow.
Just paying the bank.
Wow, not paying yourself.
No, it's just making the banks rich because we're so programmed.
Wow.
And so houses, savings, paychecks.
It's crap, huh?
Yeah.
It's crap.
So got to stay away from it.
What is something the viewers and people that that are already in your Middleman Nation may not know about you?
Probably one thing people don't know about me is just to be honest, and this is going to sound crazy, sound weird, but it's true, and I experience it in almost every big decision I make. I live in fear. I know fear's like talked down on, don't listen to your fears, stuff like that. But every day I wake up, I constantly live in fear. I have fear that, I'm going to pass poverty down to my kids if I don't do something.
Wow.
That's a real fear for me. I have a fear that, I and my family won't be able to live the life of our dreams if I don't create some income outside of work. Because if I can't, I'm going to have to sell all my time to the job. My wife's going to have to sell all her time. We won't get to see each other because we're burned out. We're working all the time. There's no freedom. Sure, we're paying our bills, but we don't even know each other, because the time that we should be spending together, we have to sell it to make a living.
Wow. You're not even it's not like see, your mindset is completely different than a normal person. Like you're going to work to spending time to make money.
Yeah.
And your mindset, since it's not something that you own, you're selling time.
Correct.
You're selling your time.
So one thing I always say is, as soon as we understand that time is more valuable than money, that there's no amount of money that's worth your time, right? So if I always use this example because it's really simple and easy to understand, that if I wrote you a check today for $1 billion, that would solve all of your financial problems for generations to come. But as soon as you cash the check, you die. You run out of time. Now, who's going to cash the check? right? Knowing that as soon as, sure, it's $1 billion, but as soon as I cash it, I'm dead. Means I'm out of time. Nobody in their right mind is going to cash it. So what does that tell you? Even without even thinking about it, intrinsically, we understand that time is the most valuable thing we have, and you cannot put a price on it. Steve Jobs died a billionaire. Steve Jobs died a billionaire. And I bet, or I'll ask you, how much of his billions of dollars do you think he would have given up just to have one more day with his family?
A lot.
All of it.
Yeah.
What would it do for him?
Nothing. Right.
What would it do for him? He would have given every dime just to spend time with his family. So I have a fear of passing down poverty. I have a fear of not being able to live the life we want to live. And I have a fear that I'll be paycheck to paycheck if I don't create income away from my job. And I've been there. Those are fears that I live by. And probably one of my biggest fears is just the fear of taking an opportunity, taking a chance.
Going forward.
Yeah.
Risk versus reward. You know, is the juice worth the squeeze? You know?
And gotta go for it.
I think in life, we, if you don't go through those experiences, it's hard to elevate to the next level and the next level and the next level. Yeah. So
those experiences are not, they're not just here by accident. Right. So the things that we go through are designed, not accidentally, they are designed to grow us. We've been growing since we were babies.
Right.
Without even asking permissions, babies do what? They grow. They go from this stage to that stage. Well, when does it end?
Never.
Why do we get to out of college and get a job, and then we forget that we want to be successful? We forget we want to take care of our families. We forget we got this crazy idea for a dream house. You know, we forget these things because society and life and experiences take it out of us.
Wow.
And instead of fighting for it, we give it away. Right? You got your cell phone. We'll fight harder for our cell phones than we will for our freedom.
Wow.
We will fight to the death if someone tries to take we'll chase them all across the yard. But the minute a job shows up and say, can I get your freedom? Yeah, sell your time over here. Because I tell people, Brian, that when you go to work, you're not the only one getting paid. The company's getting paid, not production. No. We just talked about time being more valuable than money.
Right.
When you pay them in time. They pay you in dollars.
Wow.
You are paying them more than what they pay you because your time is worth 1 billion times what they pay you. And when I learned that my time is the most valuable thing, I immediately said, you can't afford me. You can't afford me. You can't afford my wife. When I first started my business, Brian, my wife was working 40 or 50 hours a week, come home burned out, tired. And I said, wait a minute. If I don't do something, my wife's going to spend her marriage with that company. And they're going to send her home 65, 75, beat up, tired, waiting to die. And I said, not on my watch. I married her to be with me. That's what's going to happen. And so, sweetheart, you listen, this is what I told her last year. This is your last year of working. Come next year, we won't need your paycheck. And I was able to tell her this year, done, don't need your paycheck. Let's go enjoy life.
Wow. And all the great information you've given us, in this interview, what is another specific advice that you would give the viewers today? What's one of the best pieces of advice you've ever gotten?
Well, I've gotten a lot of good pieces.
The best.
I've heard, I got some good ones. I got some mentors, some coaches that say, do everything you want to do in life as fast as you can.
Speed.
Yeah, go fast because life is short.
Why is so important?
Because life is short. You want to go fast because even if you get to live 100 years, it's not long. You're going to be dead a lot longer than you're going to be alive.
What about direction?
Once you find out what you want to do in life, or you get that feeling in your gut, that intuition to go a direction. Like I get a lot of feedback from my students. They're like, hey, as soon as I heard, that I could create a business, as soon as I heard the message and that you were in it with us, I was all in. And so go fast, go in the direction you want to go in. Speed is great because even if you go the wrong way, you're going to find out faster. And but the last piece of advice I would probably leave anybody with would just be, look, just shoot your shot. Just simple.
Go for it.
Shoot your shot.
Right.
Go for it. Just do it.
Right.
Whatever you got to do.
Right.
Don't back down from opportunities. Don't run away from them because they don't line up with your comfort zone, or your comfort zone so powerful that it's become a prison and you don't even know it. Right. So, and I deal with that with people all the time. Like, hey, that you don't recognize, there's some bars around you. You've built a prison. And so my advice would be, look, for everybody who's watching, or for everyone who may see this at some point, just look, shoot your shot, take a chance. You only live once. Max this life out, get everything you can get out of it. And when you die, leave everything you were born with here.
I have the last question for you before we finalize this amazing interview. Do you think in 2024, and this goes for business, it goes for, you're married and I'll be engaged soon, and you shot your shot, and I shot my shot. But before that, you've always been a confident guy, especially, you look good, you're confident, you're in shape. Why are people, business and even in dating, they're afraid to try to create opportunity, approach people for clients, or approach somebody to date? And on top of that, what's causing people not to have the leadership and social skills to actually create something great? Why are people afraid to go for what they want? That's what I'm really saying.
I think fear dictates a lot of decisions that people make. I think people trust.
But you just said you that's one of your biggest.
Yeah, but the difference is that I overcome it. So I was able to identify the fear.
How you overcome it, Sean?
Right. So I identify the fear, right? So I'm no stranger to fear showing up.
I got you.
So I know fear is going to be at the door when I have to make a decision.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And so I've learned that, hey, fear is going to show up. It is what it is. So I need to make fear my friend, make fear my partner.
Make fear your friend.
Right, as opposed to my enemy. So when fear knocks at the door and says, hey, you sure you want to pack your family up and leave Louisiana? You've never been out of Louisiana, and you're going to pack up and move to Dallas? You don't know anybody there. That's fear talking. You don't know anybody there. How are you going to make money, Sean? Your wife has no job. What's she going to do? Right? And then, so you get that punch in the gut. But I promise you, if you can stand back up, you can look at fear and say, I'm glad you showed up.
Wow.
Right? I'm glad you showed up because you are confirming and giving me permission to go.
Wow. This interview has been so powerful.
Yeah.
Mr. Middleman CEO.
Hey.
I'm truly grateful to have you here in this interview. You've gained some really, really profound nuggets.
Yeah.
And I know there's so much great things in store for you. And I'm looking at you being a millionaire within the next year or so.
Look, man, I claim it. I'm not going to back down.
You're going to be on Google. They're going to say what's his net worth is on the show. And net worth is always incorrect on Google. So guys, get ready.
Yeah. Well, not just me. The students too. By the way, guys, if you want to get into the Middleman Masterclass, there's a few spots left. Just go to middlemanceo.com, get the masterclass and VIP, and we'll work together.
How do we find you on social media?
Middlemanceo.com. I tried to capture it on all of the different platforms. So you can find me there, follow me there, DM me, message me. I try to be as available as I can because I believe in the success of this brand.
Wow.
It's been successful for me. I have students that are successful and sharing it with others.
Wow.
And so my main goal is to try to teach 10,000 or help 10,000 families, not individuals. 10,000 families become financially free by creating a middleman business.
By this year or just in general?
Just over time.
Over time.
Yeah, if I can do that, imagine how many lives that'll change. And so that's my goal. Hopefully we surpass that, but that's my goal. That's what I live for, to see people's life change.
Well, Mr. Middleman CEO, it's been a pleasure having you here. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.